Welcome back, welcome back. It's the movie that's quite likely to become the big hit this month. Happy Feet 2. More animated adventures of the dancing penguins at the South Pole. Much of the success of the first film was down to the superstars who voiced the penguins, including the one and only Robin Williams. The Oscar-winning star of Good Morning Vietnam and Mrs. Doubtfire was in London this week. But before we hear from him, let's see a clip of Happy Feet 2.
Okie dokie. Now loosen up, empty your mind.
Done.
And picture your goal.
Okay.
See her eyes. Blue, no, brown, deep brown, short. Tall, slender, bound. Come on, feel it hard. Now with extra added bonus feel. Come, feel it, feel it, feel it, feel it, feel it, feel it. Open your eyes.
You, me, beautiful egg. Now.
You, me, fat chance.
I have a chance, and it's fat.
Carmen, I'm getting serious stalker vibe.
Carmen. Oh, Sven, you're going to be my best friend and my best man, all rolled into one.
Great to see you again, Robin.
You too, sir.
Life is still good.
Oh,
Life
wonderful.
is still frantic.
Not frantic, much quieter now, but really lovely.
Yeah. A contented man.
Ah, yes. I wouldn't content, yes. Content is a good word. Yeah, really happy.
Yeah, that's
Just got married again, which is wonderful.
Yeah, terrific.
Third time.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Third time. Bobcat Goldthwait said getting married for the third time is like bringing a burn victim to a fireworks show. But it's like...
Well, yes, because it used to be that getting married a second time was the triumph of hope over experience.
And what is the
wasn't
third time then?
it? Well, then you just did it.
Just
then.
sheer will.
Yeah.
At that point, go for it. Just take the leap of faith, dear boy.
You look really fit and so on. You had one brief relapse with
Yeah, I had a
2003 or something.
I had a relapse. I went to rehab in wine country just to keep my options open. And then I had heart surgery 2 or 3 years ago. I had a cow valve. I have a cow valve now, which is great because I can crap standing up. But it's like, it's things of, it's good to have. It's Meat 2.0. So it's two renovations. Keep moving.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you're branching out again with the new Happy Feet 2.
Yeah.
Do you prepare for a part when it's a voiceover the same as when you're doing it in the flesh, or is it different?
No, you give it, you give it the same commitment. You have to really kind of believe in what you're doing with the voice, and in a weird way you have to be even more so, because these characters are they're larger than life, even though they're small penguins. Ramon is this little Latino penguin, machito. He's very powerful and in love. He wants women in the worst way, which is usually in person. And Lovelace is very much kind of a Barry White, kind of Al Sharpton kind of penguin. Kind of a Baptist Amateury now. And you get to be big and, and kind of a revivalist. Yeah, you give them the same commitment. You have to.
You have to. You give them the same commitment, and they have the same impact, in fact.
I think so. If a character really works, especially in animation, it kicks in. And people resonate with it. Like one of the first times I ever noticed that was when I did Aladdin. And I'd done it, and a year later a little kid came up to me and started doing William F. Buckley, because I did it in Aladdin. I was like, this is pretty obscure. Like, Mr. Williams, what a lovely character. I'm an arch conservative.
Oh, yes.
How old are you? This many.
Yeah,
That's pretty crazy. He was a very interesting man. I met him once. I said, Mr. Buckley, I'm a big fan. He went, that must be a group of one. This crazy guy.
You make fewer movies by choice at the moment. You do 2 or 3, you were doing 4 or 5 almost at once.
Yeah, I think it's by choice and also by content. I was just doing so many at one point. They used to advertise movies, and now a movie without Robin Williams. But it's the idea of, just kind of take your time. Don't run down the hill. They'll be there. I did a small part in a movie with De Niro called The Big Wedding, and this animation. So, it's a little quieter, but it's okay.
You were all doing the recording of the voices together, weren't you?
Which is great.
You think of voices as being done in lonely separation.
Yeah, most of the time it's like bad Skype. You're in a room going, and now, and then there'll be a voice, and you'll see this television. Very good. It's like NASA phone sex.
Yeah.
But it was this weird thing with George, you're in the room together, he's there in the recording booth, and it's live, and the feedback is incredible.
Yeah, so that really works.
It kicks it in gear.
And it's good for the characters, I suppose, that you're surrounded by the other characters.
Yeah, and it's literally that you're doing off-camera for animation, which is you're there supporting other people, feeding them the lines, and it really helps everyone be really in the moment. It's great stuff.
So can you tell Can you tell with films, and in this case, in the different thing with the audio, can you tell in advance which film is going to work and which isn't?
You never know. You know that you're having a good time doing it. It's just a question of when it comes out, what happens. Like with the first one, we never knew that it was going to do what it did. And then when it won the Academy Award, it was like, yes! But it's this weird thing of, when we did it the first time, it was a great time doing it, and you hope that experience translates.
And because Aladdin was the first time you seriously did this sort
of... Actually, before that, I did this character in Fern Gully where I played kind of a brain-damaged bat. But Aladdin was the first time I really got to kick out and do like multiple characters.
Yeah. And so now you'll go back to, well, you'll do animation whenever it crops up, I suppose.
Yeah, if they send one, it'd be great.
Yeah. Do you have specific dreams of things to do? I mean, other than that you like them, but I mean, you know, have you always... Dustin Hoffman said to me that he'd always wanted to play Hitler, for instance.
Wow.
Which would
be a great subtext.
Yes, yeah.
Definitely going to do it. What are you doing now? Definitely going to conquer Poland.
That's like pretty wonderful.
So who will be playing me? The little Jew. Oh, wonderful.
I think I've always wanted to play Einstein, I guess, for kind of like, yeah, that's kind of coming at the idea of just to see, knowing about him, knowing, you know, his history, I'd be like, that'd be something really wonderful.
Yeah, that would
in a musical.
In a
yeah.
What would it be
Sitting,
called?
Traveling at the speed of life? No, I don't know.
And in terms of health, you're incredibly healthy. You're 60 now. So
incredibly healthy? I don't know.
Fairly healthy.
Fairly healthy. Let's just say alive, breathing. As they say, every day above ground. There was a Greek journalist today that said, every day below ground. That's for a vampire. Your mother and I, every day below ground. May it be that way. But I'm really feeling good, thanks.
Yes. And this was a quote here that I like very much of yours here. You said, love is pretty close to the most important thing there is. Cheaper than Prozac.
Very much so.
Very much so.
Yes, sir. It's the great elixir. Yeah. And it's just as addicting. And it's kind of wonderful because the fix is right there in front of you.
Yeah.
And she's amazing. I mean, if you have it, it's the gift, and it requires maintenance every day, attention.
How did you and Susan meet, in fact?
We met literally outside an Apple store. You mean like a market? No, an Apple store.
Yeah.
And it was like this weird, you've got mail. But it was this weird thing of I saw her and I went, I know you. And it just was off and running. It was kind of beautiful.
Love at first sight.
I think so. Or first bite, if you think of the Apple store.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
It's a sweet place.
Oh, there was one other great quote about life life is a lot simpler when you're straight. That was meaning straight in the sense of no drugs. Or
right.
Whatever.
Oh yeah, a lot cheaper too.
A lot cheaper.
Yeah. You don't have those 3 o'clock in the morning phone calls. Hey, how you doing? Welcome. Hey, can you come over? Just be like.
What is the attraction of cocaine, and what is the thing that cures you of it? Or
the both. I mean, the attraction is this idea of it's this weird drug. It's like this immediate empowerment and then total insecurity. I mean, you're like, hey, I'm great. No, I'm not so good. So it's like between that, you're back and forth, and eventually that's what makes you go, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. No, you can't. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. No, you can't. Eventually you go, no, you can't. You know, and it's very hard after a while. You realize you're writing off on your tax form $50,000 for snacks.
Yeah,
you know, it's like and it's
sometimes they might rumble that.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah. And
just
when you start becoming a vampire on a day pass, you realize, what's that daylight? It's crazy, and you waste so much time, and it's this totally introverted drug where you just eventually just kind of implode.
And so the feeling when you stop is it instant euphoria to be free of it, or does it take time to adjust?
I think you get over it. I think I did it on my own, so it wasn't like I just kind of went. Yeah, I just couldn't live that other way. I mean, and I started to enjoy things like conversations, you know, and it was nice. And all of a sudden you come back again and you're present, and it's much better. I did cooking because the idea I could withdraw. I mean, literally, most people get like very active. I did. It's like certain kids on Ritalin, they get very kind of quiet. I did that, and I think I used it to withdraw. But when I got off it, I was like, all of a sudden people went, "You're back." I went, "Yeah." What's that? No more demon. Little voice on your shoulder. No, too late. No, it's gone.
Well, you were saying that you get to enjoy conversation again, and I always enjoy our conversations, and it's a joy to see you, and
ditto.
May you live happily ever after.
I hope so, sir.
For a long time.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
God bless. We'll be talking the next time. I'm here with Frost. What a wonderful day. Thank you now. I have my new artificial hand. Siri, is there an Apple store nearby? No, Robin. Thank you.
The different attitudes there, different voices, the one and only Robin Williams. Now we meet a man of apparent contradictions. An ardent Zionist and a lifelong supporter of the left-wing movement, a former kibbutz resident and a bookish intellectual. He was one of the very first Israelis to advocate a two-state solution after the Six-Day War, and he has constantly spoken out against the occupation of the Palestinian territories. His books have been translated into 38 languages, including Arabic and Chinese. The award-winning author, Amos Oz, joins me now from Tel Aviv. Amos, welcome. It's very, very good to have you with us. Everybody talks about the various fascinating contrasts in your beliefs and so on, like on the one hand being a Zionist and on the other hand being a great critic of the occupation and other things. Today, we were quoted here in the paper from a few days before, Prime Minister Netanyahu declaimed the Arab Spring as an Islamic, anti-Western, anti-liberal, anti-Israeli, undemocratic wave. Do you agree with any of that?
No, I think it's too early, and I think it's wrong to generalize conclusions about the entire Arab world. I think different occurrences are going to happen in different Arab countries, and the future of Egypt is not necessarily the future of Syria, and the future of Syria is not necessarily the future of Yemen.
I see that we tend to think of them all in a bunch and that intellectually is wrong.
Well, many people are captivated by the occurrences in the former Soviet bloc, the kind of domino collapse of the entire Soviet bloc in the course of a few weeks. This is not necessarily going to repeat itself in the Arab world. The Arab world is not the Soviet bloc, and Cairo is not Moscow.
We hear a lot about your views. When did you change your views on the invasion of Gaza, Amos? You thought in favour of it originally and then realised you were against it. Is that right?
Oh, no, that's not quite right. I was in favour of a limited and restricted military response, but not in favour of a full-scale war and not in favour of invasion into Gaza.
I see. And so that was consistently your view. And did you become more and more disgusted with that whole operation then?
Well, I thought it was wrong for the Israelis to invade Gaza. I think it was wrong for the Israelis to try to occupy the whole of Gaza. And I think it's wrong of the Israelis to try to suppress Hamas by force, because Hamas is an idea, and an idea you cannot suppress by force. You can only suppress it by a better idea.
And when you say Hamas is an idea, in terms of their rapprochement in recent days with the other Palestinians and so on, do you think Hamas is now starting to definitely qualify for international negotiations and not to be regarded as a pariah anymore?
I don't know. It depends on the evolution of Hamas. If Hamas accepts the two-state solution, it's negotiable. As long as Hamas maintains that there should be no Israel, there can be no compromise. There is no way that Israel could only exist Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So I am looking forward to some change in Hamas' basic position about Israel's existence.
What about a change in the Israeli position towards settlements? I mean, you feel they're a mistake.
Well, I've got some news for you. The majority of the Israelis are willing now, or unhappily ready now, to accept a two-state solution and to renounce the West Bank. They will not be dancing in the streets when the two-state solution is implemented. They will not be happy about it. But they are unhappily ready to accept it. I think this is true for the majority of the Palestinians as well. So if I may use a metaphor, I would say that the patient, Israeli and Palestinian, is unhappily ready for the surgery, but the doctors are cowards.
And in terms of Israel's internal views and society and so on, is Israel something that you feel more and more in sympathy with for the obvious reasons of your birth and conditions, or do you worry about the apparent trend towards greater militarism in the attitudes of Israel? Does that worry you?
I'm worried about some draft legislations in the Knesset, which I regard as anti-democratic. I'm worried about certain pessimism in the Israeli public opinion. I am worried about a certain fatalism in Israeli public opinion. But essentially the change is for the better, because the Israelis are more pragmatic now about the future of the West Bank than they had ever been before. And even the right wing, the Israeli right wing, even the Likud party, is now at least paying a lip service to a two-state solution. This is a big step forward. In my day, when my friends and I started advocating a two-state solution, the idea was regarded as heresy even by the Labour Party. Today, it's almost wall-to-wall. Two-state solution is accepted. Let us accept the two-state solution, but we don't want to be suckers. That is, I would say, the position of the Israeli in the street.
Is there some person that you feel you can rely on for the impetus towards peace?
There is an Arabic proverb saying that you cannot clap with one hand. Try it and see how right the proverb is. I think we need courageous leadership on both sides, in Israel and in Palestine. And I think both the Israelis and the Palestinians seem to lack the kind of bold and courageous leadership, especially the Israelis.
Tell me about the origin and current existence of the Order of the Teaspoon.
Well, many years ago, I wrote a piece about fanatics. And I suggested that when an individual sees a great blaze, a big fire, there are three options. Option one is run away as soon as you can and let those who cannot run burn. Option two is write an angry letter to your editor protesting against the arsons. And option three is pour some water on the fire. And if you don't have a bucket, then pour a teaspoon with water on the bucket. The teaspoon is very small, but there are many of us. And I suggested, half-jokingly, that we establish an order of the teaspoon so that people who believe in the philosophy of individually pouring water on the fire will carry a little lapel, a little badge on their lapel in the form of a teaspoon. And the Swedes in Sweden adopted the idea, and they established an order of the teaspoon in Sweden. I never underestimate the strength of the fanatics and the extremists on both sides to derail any peace process. But I can give you a prophecy, although I'm very reluctant on making prophecies coming from the land of the prophets. There's too much competition in the prophecy business here. But let me give you one prediction. One day there will be a Palestinian embassy in Israel, and there will be an Israeli embassy in Palestine, and those two embassies will be walking distance from one another, because one of them will be in Jewish West Jerusalem and the other one in Palestinian East Jerusalem.
Very good. We'll make a note of that prediction, and we hope something positive like that does indeed happen. Thank you very much for being with us, Amos. We hope we can welcome you again. It's been a joy to talk. Warmest greetings from here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, David.
Now, finally this week, we turn to one of the world's most enduring fictional detectives. Sherlock Holmes was the hero in a series of novels and short stories written by Arthur Conan Doyle more than 100 years ago. Since then, he's become a household name, not only in his own household, but around the world, and the movie world's most portrayed character. But the Conan Doyle estate have always refused to endorse any further books featuring Holmes. Until now. That's changed with the release of The House of Silk. The author is almost as famous as Holmes himself, and a good deal more alive as well, Anthony Horowitz, who's here right now, joining us. Of course, he's got his Alex Rider series, which is just coming to an end, but he's here now, above all, to talk about Sherlock Holmes. Welcome, after all that, Anthony.
Thank you very much.
Very good to have you with us. The subject is Sherlock Holmes, but just one question. Have you really written tabs on Alex Rider? Huge popular series.
Yes, I have. 9 books. I decided that was enough. And I was always determined to keep it fairly limited, because I have this feeling that sometimes people hang around too long and stories just go off. And one thinks actually of Sherlock Holmes. After he came back from the Rickenbacker Falls, I think Doyle was going through the motions for money to a certain extent. And some of the very late stories in the canon are thin, to say the least, and not nearly as good. And another of my literary heroes, in fact, is Ian Fleming. And I often wish that actually the James Bond books had stopped perhaps after 6 or 7, because the later ones also have that sense of disappointment. And when you're writing particularly for young people, I think it's almost criminal to write a book where they rush out and buy and they read under the covers with a torch and get up in the morning and say, well, you know, actually it wasn't quite so good.
It's like the old showbiz motto, leave 'em wanting more.
Well, in a nutshell, indeed.
And how did you come to get picked out of all the writers in the world to do this, to write the new Sherlock Holmes?
Well, you know, I don't actually know the answer to that question, because when I was approached, I mean, basically, I was sitting there slightly bereft after Alex Rider had gone and wondering what to do next, when there was a knock at the door, and it was an agent from the Sherlock Holmes estate, the Doyle estate, asking me if I'd be interested in doing this. And my first reaction was to not want to know anything about them. I didn't want to meet with them. I didn't want notes. I didn't want to have to show them what I was going to do or tell them what my ideas were, because I didn't want to be beholden to these people. I wanted to write an original, exciting book that would work on my own rules. And so I never asked those questions of why me, and I never met them, and I still haven't really met them. I've met one or two since the book came out. I'm delighted to say they're very happy with it. But I kept my distance.
And what did you bring, in addition to preserving what was old or was there, what did you bring to Sherlock Holmes that, oh, there it is. First of all, it falls on the floor very easily.
It is a book designed, actually,
readers
to
should be warned.
Of a table.
Yes, they should be warned about the dangers of that. But apart from the dangers of that, I mean, what did you bring to it that was fresh, do you think?
Well, I think that it was a balancing act. On the one hand, the book has to be completely true to the original. It has to live within the world of Doyle, and it even has to have the same sort of idiom, the 19th century language, and a sort of sense that it's narrated by Dr. Watson, that everybody, Moriarty, Mycroft, Mrs. Hudson and the rest of it, are in their right place. But at the same time, I didn't want to write just a fossil or a pastiche or something that was sort of, you know, just a tired imitation. It has to have a modern sensibility too. And so I think what you get is a bit of really almost the world of Alex Rider. You get sort of fast action and pace, you get surprises, cliffhangers. It has a sort of a modern sensibility in the sort of in the pace of the storytelling. Also, at the heart of the book is a sort of a very dark and sinister crime, which Doyle would never have written about, although it is actually based on something that happened in 1891. So it is true to the period. Nonetheless, it's something which those Victorians would never have discussed. And so that in itself is quite modern and fresh and new.
Yeah. So that's a good list there. And would you be attracted by the idea of doing more of these?
No, I wouldn't. I mean, when I took this on, I was already worried that there is a certain cynicism amongst publishers who are all fairly desperate at the moment, and therefore they're trying to find instant bestsellers. And one of the ways they're doing it is with these prequels, sequels, add-ons. Take a famous character, whether it's Biggles or Madame Bovary or whoever, and try and spin a new book based on that sort of trademark. And I wasn't sure I wanted to be part of that sort of marketing exercise just to sell books. You know, I'm an author in my own right. I don't need to just imitate someone else. I did it because I love Holmes and couldn't resist it. It was just, you know, too good to miss, to move into 221B Baker Street for a while and live with these wonderful characters. I had to do it. To do a second one, a third one, a fourth one, I think that would become a bit of a marketing exercise, so I think one is enough. I have plans for another book set in the same milieu, the same period. I love it, that sort of end of the 19th century with all the fog and the growlers and the cobblestones and the gas lamps and all that stuff. I want to go back, but if Holmes appears in my next book, it'll be only a fleeting across the pages, you know.
Great to have you with us.
Pleasure,
Good luck
you.
with all of this, starting with the new Sherlock Holmes. And that's it for this week. My thanks to all of my guests. And my thanks in advance to the ones to come, like next week, Richard Branson and Elijah Wood, among others. All of that next week. Please join us then. Thank you for joining us now.